Thank you. Shri Jayadev Galla ji.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I rise to support the bill moved by Shri Gangwarji as it benefits all the workers, both organized and unorganized sector. The bill is in pursuance to the recommendations made by the Second National Commission on Labor in 2002. The bill is going to merge 4 labor laws, as everyone has already mentioned, to make it a single code, and also mandates that wages have to be revised once in every 5 years. So it's a welcome move, sir. So I just want to make one observation based on our experience running industry also. When Manrega was first introduced, it affected the labor supply in the country, for us and for all the industries. Many of the workers who had a choice of either sitting at home and getting paid a monthly wage or going and working in an industry chose to remain at home and get the Narega benefit instead. So it was very hard to actually get labor for several years. But interestingly, what happened is this forced the employers to relook at their minimum wage and actually offer a more attractive wage to attract that labor force back to industry. So unofficially, it started to work to bring wages up and therefore indirectly setting a minimum wage. So my suggestion to the Labor Minister is to please interact and work with the Rural Development Minister also to ensure that the Narega rate and the minimum wage are synchronized in such a manner that it benefits both the sectors and doesn't create problem for one or the other. So I think this is a very important point I'd like the Minister to consider. Sir, there is no doubt that the issue of minimum wages in the country is very complex, complicated, and the same view has been subscribed even by the Economic Survey 2018-19. We have 429 scheduled employments and 1,915 scheduled job categories for unskilled workers under the Minimum Wages Act. The proposed code removes the concept of scheduled employment and job categories. Sir, industry bodies, including the CII, have welcomed this. Sir, I now come to some of the provisions of the bill, and I'll be very brief and pointed in this. So please just give me a few minutes and I'll complete it. I won't extend.
Please keep.
Sir, the first one is relating to Clause 2YF, which defines wages and does not include house rent allowance. It is in contravention to the Parent Act, where Section 2H included house rent allowance also. Here I would request that house rent allowance be considered under wages, since the minimum wages aims at a minimum level of comfort which should be available to an employee, and accommodation is one such basic need. Secondly, it is contrary to the interpretation of the Apex Court in its April 2019 judgment in the cases of Hindustan Sanitary Ware and Industries Limited and Faridabad Industries Association versus the state of Haryana, wherein it held that the HRA is part of the minimum wages, whereas the code excludes HRA from wages. So I suggest for consideration of the Honourable Minister to revisit this clause and reframe it accordingly. The third point is relating to Section 5 of Equal Remuneration Act, which prohibits discrimination in payment of wages and recruitment on the basis of gender. But sir, if you look at the second proviso to Clause 2K of the bill,
please conclude.
That for the purpose of equal wages to all genders, sir, I employ more than 15,000 people in this country and paying wages, and they're paying taxes, and these are a few very important points, not to be detrimental or anything, but just to share with the government
you're past your time,
to improve
actually.
it. 2 minutes. It's not about time. Sir, both are contradicting each other. One is prohibiting and the other is computing emoluments such as conveyance allowance, HRA, remuneration payable under any award, and overtime allowance. The code is also silent about the discrimination in recruitment, and I feel that it is glaring gender discrimination towards women. My fourth point is under the Minimum Wages Act. It is mandatory to revise the minimum wages at intervals not exceeding 5 years. But if you look at subclause 4 of clause 8 of the bill, it says that the appropriate government shall review or revise minimum rates of wages ordinarily at an interval not exceeding 5 years. I feel that the wording in the clause is loosely worded. Here you are using the word ordinarily, which is not proper.
Thank you. Please conclude.
Hence, I request the Honourable Minister to retain the original section, which is clear and does not beat around the bush. Just two more paragraphs and I'm complete, sir.
Please, you're
Sir, my
past your
next
time.
point is, if you look at clause 9 of the bill, it is proposed that the central government will fix floor wages, and whatever is fixed by the central government is the benchmark for all states. So I ask the veracity and tenability of fixation, sir. And secondly, if one looks at subclause 3 to clause 9, it says that the central government only consults the states in fixing the minimum wages. It means the fixation will be thrust upon the states as you are only consulting. I strongly feel that this amounts to taking away the rights of states. So I suggest for the consideration of the Honourable Minister to substitute consultation with concurrence. It is only then that you will get justified wages for the workers. Sir, finally, clause 26(2) says that in case of salary exceeding the threshold limit, the salary can be restricted to threshold limit or the minimum wages, whichever is higher. Sir, I wish to submit that in case the wage ceiling is removed, all employees, irrespective of their salary, would become eligible for bonus as per the Act. This may defeat the purpose of the law to share profits among the working class. So with these observations, I'm hoping that the Honourable Minister will ponder over the issues raised by me and take remedial measures for giving a better structure and shape to the proposed code on wages. And thank you very much. I conclude my speech. Thank you.